Greetings and salutations, comrades. Hope this finds you well. So this story's been making the rounds. You've probably seen it or read it or heard about it, how the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, again, Kyle Rittenhouse, that, fascist, that white supremacist who traveled from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and murdered two people who were rightfully, out in the streets, pissed off, protesting, stirring shit up because Jacob Blake had been shot in the back by a cop. Jacob Blake, again, who's now paralyzed from the waist down, likely for the rest of his life, because this cop decided he had to shoot him in cold blood. And again, that's exactly what Kyle Rittenhouse did to those two people he murdered and the other person he shot. The judge in this case, though, said the prosecutors aren't able to refer to Kyle Rittenhouse, the people he murdered, frankly. They can't refer to them as victims or alleged victims, but it's completely fine that the Kyle Rittenhouse's defense refer to the people that Rittenhouse murdered as rioters or looters. You see the double standard there? Not to mention the fact, I'm going to share this tweet real quick because I think it encapsulates what's going on here quite well. I came across this yesterday from Tom and Nisha J. John on Twitter. Definitely give them a follow. Just refer to Rittenhouse as murder. That's what he is. As murderer, that's what he is. What I find most disturbing about the judge referring to those murdered as rioters or looters is that even in death, white supremacy plus capitalism reveals the premium it places on property over the lives of the people. I mean, doesn't that sum it up quite well, right? Literally doesn't matter if those murdered, looted, or destroyed anything for the U.S. justice system. What matters is that the person on trial murdered people in service of private property, while those murdered were protesting state violence and injustice towards Black people. Again, people were in the streets of Wisconsin, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, because Jacob Blake was shot in the fucking back by a killer cop. So I think that sums it up quite well, right? I mean, there's the WAPO headline. Men shot by Rittenhouse can be called rioters and looters, but not victims, judge rules. And just how, like that juxtaposition, right? The so-called U.S. justice system, is definitely based on, capitalism and white supremacy, places a premium on property over these people's lives. These two people that were murdered by Kyle Rittenhouse, this fascist, this white supremacist, who again was getting, cheered on and supported by the cops in Kenosha while he was doing this, right? Like they were giving him water bottles or some other shit, which isn't surprising. I mean, cops are, they uphold capitalism and white supremacy. That's the same thing that Kyle Rittenhouse was doing, out there. Instead of actually being pissed off that Jacob Blake was shot in the back, again, walking away from a cop, shot in the fucking back. Rittenhouse, I didn't see anything wrong with that, but he was out there trying to, quote unquote, protect private property, right? And cops were, in support of that because they support those same exact things, so here's just the article from NPR. Prosecutors cannot call those shot by Rittenhouse victims, but looter, just absolute fucking disgrace. Like, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. What is wrong with people like this, right? They've just been indoctrinated with and bought into this whole myth of like, yeah, private property is more important than a human life, like the lives that he took and the life that the cop tried to take when he, tried to murder Jacob Blake in cold blood, right? I mean, I also think it's word victim is a loaded word. I think it's alleged victim is a cousin to it. Judge Bruce Schroeder said on Monday, asking prosecutors instead to use the terms complaining witness or descendant, like to refer to those shot by again, if we were actually being honest here, it would be people murdered by Rittenhouse, right? Meanwhile, the defense will be allowed to refer to 3 people Rittenhouse shot as arsonists, looters, or rioters, so long as they took part in those activities, Schroeder ruled. A decision Prosecutor Thomas Binger called the double standard, and I would completely agree. And I'm, again, no fan of the U.S. injustice system, but this motherfucker murdered people in cold blood to protect and uphold property fucking rights. I mean, get a fucking grip on yourself, you absolute nut job. Jesus. So look, like, yeah, the judge, this the complete double standards. Like, how is, in the context of who's going to be on this as a jury, I'm assuming it's a jury trial, right? Um, like calling people arsonists, rioters, or looters, how are those not loaded fucking terms, right? And again, he's placing more importance on private property than the lives of these people who were snuffed out by this, fascist, this white supremacist Kyle Rittenhouse, right? Um, yeah. So look, yeah, this all happened after this uprising happened after a cop shot again, person of color, black man, Jacob Blake, in the back as he was trying to get into his fucking car. Survived, paralyzed from the waist down. Look, yeah. Cross state lines from Illinois, like, Jesus fucking Christ. So I think it's important to remember the names of these people he murdered, these lives he took, right? People who were out in the streets rightfully after Jacob Blake was shot in the back by that killer cop as he was trying to get into his fucking car. Again, how are people more upset? It's just insane how people are more upset about private property getting destroyed than they are for people getting murdered, right? Like, get a grip, like, get some fucking humanity, people. What is wrong with you? Rittenhouse murdered several people, killing 2, Joseph Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber, wounding a 3rd, Gage Grosskreutz. I mean, Jesus Christ. And then, yeah, his defense is somehow trying to argue he acted in self-defense. Jesus fucking Christ. But again, it's not surprising that the judge in this case is taking the side of, property rights, private property, because that's, what the U.S. injustice system upholds is, capitalism, private property, and white supremacy. So see what happens in this case, but Jesus fucking Christ, the United States is a fucking horror show, always has been, always will be. That's why we need to kind of get rid of it, right? Like the video if you like the damn video, subscribe for more content, all proud of the people. Quick shout out to the 2 Uber comrades supporting my channel, this content Patreon, my partner, and Independent Left News. Definitely check them out. They're a great source. Peace.